Hello, good afternoon in Germany and good evening in Bhutan and maybe late in the night in Australia and other parts of the world. So I would like to welcome you on behalf of the German Bhutan Himalaya Society to our webinar, Bhutan's Gelephu Mindfulness City Innovation Meets Spirituality. We have been overwhelmed by the real great interest. So in Germany, we say it seems that with this topic, we hit the nerve because several thousand people really showed interest to join this webinar. And indeed, it's a very interesting topic with very prominent speakers. So I will be very short, but just at the beginning, it may be a very auspicious sign, but today, many of you know, is also the International UN Day of Happiness. And this UN Day of Happiness has been introduced by Bhutan in the year 2012. And just also for some technical hints for the audience. So this webinar you can see also on YouTube, and you will have the chance in this YouTube channel later after the webinar to send your question or to express your question on the YouTube platform. So this just for your information. So let me just give a very brief introduction to what is, and Gelephu Mindfulness City now is really known by its acronym GMC. It's a special administrative region in Bhutan, envisioned by His Majesty the King of Bhutan, and it's an innovative urban development project that integrates economic growth with mindfulness, holistic living, and sustainability. The strategic position at the crossroads of major economic regions, and I'm sure you will hear much more later, including South Asia and China, combined with Bhutan's commitment to sustainable development, rich cultural heritage, and strong governance, positions the city as a global leader in mindful and sustainable urban growth. And GMC builds on Bhutan's reputation for stability and peace, creating a secure and transparent environment for business and residents alike. So as a Vajrayana kingdom, Bhutan offers a profound spiritual heritage that guides GMC's vision of mindful living in the 21st century. So economic growth, strong governance, and spirituality converge to a set of new global standards for sustainable and harmonious urban development. So with this, as I said, I will be short and we will hear much more. We will start with a short introductory film on the Gelephu Mindfulness City. So please stay tuned.
In the land of the Thunder Dragon lies a special place where wisdom and compassion have forged a unique way of life. Rooted in the timeless principles of Vajrayana Buddhism, Bhutan seamlessly intertwines spiritual and cultural values with a profound respect for nature. A green sanctuary where national parks and forests absorb more CO2 than the country emits. Bhutan harnesses the power of its rivers, making it one of the cleanest nations in the world. Guided by Buddhist principles and the philosophy of gross national happiness, Bhutan has nurtured a society built on trust and well-being. A safe place, governed by a stable political system dedicated to the country's long-term vision. Today, Bhutan is focused on building its future, ready to emerge as the gateway between South Asia and the world. Rooted in Bhutanese identity and open to international partners, a new city will serve as a hub for global exchange and sustainable development. With a confined footprint of just 4% of the nation, this special administrative region will lay the foundation for future generations, becoming a new model for a lasting legacy. Welcome to Gelephu Mindfulness City. Descending from the Himalayas to the lush tropical plains, a cascade of urban terraces is shaped by the uninterrupted flow of water, plants, and animals. A land where bridges become cultural landmarks, connecting one neighborhood to another. A human-scale environment designed to inspire and nurture global talent, fostering a culture of collaboration, experimentation, and innovation. In Gelephu, green and clean surroundings will drive businesses towards sustainability, striking a balance between economic success and environmental prosperity. Built with locally sourced river stones, timber, and bamboo, the Mindfulness City blends tradition with modernity, preserving heritage while advancing progress and cultivating resilient, self-sustaining communities. Here nature is enhanced rather than displaced, with every path drawing you deeper into the wild. This sanctuary for spiritual and physical rejuvenation evolves with its ever-changing landscape, integrating infrastructure with social activities and nature-based solutions. A constellation of public spaces will gather residents of the Mindfulness City to share a life of learning and happiness. In the Vajrayana Buddhist capital of the world, people of all cultures will unite and practice compassion, kindness, and inner peace, revealing Bhutan's greatest teachings. Together, we begin a new era of mindful prosperity.
So, with this very short movie, you have got a first impression, but as I mentioned, we have a lot of prominent speakers, and in the next 60 minutes, you will learn much more about GMC. And so the speakers are Dasho Dr Lotay Tshering. He has been former Prime Minister of Bhutan, and he has been appointed by His Majesty the King as governor of GMC. And we also will have Giulia Frittoli. She's partner in charge of the GMC project for Bjarke Ingels Group, who made this design, but she will talk then much more about it later. We also will have Ambassador Tshoki Choden. She's the ambassador of the Kingdom of Bhutan in Brussels in Belgium. And Mr. Rapsel Dorji, who is head of communication of GMC. So I would like to start with Dasho Dr Lotay Tshering to give a keynote speech and give his views on Gelephu Mindfulness City. So please, Dasho, the floor is yours.
Hello, Mr. Rian Hu, Her Excellency Ambassador Tshoki, my good friends, Giulia and Rapsel, and all the audience. It's a huge appreciation to the effort that you have put in. We are all very grateful to you all and very, very happy. Thank you very much for putting this effort together. Well, I'm very happy to be sharing this platform because you have already done a great introduction. The video is self-explanatory. And then following my talk, we have Ambassador Tshoki, Ms. Giulia, who is the architect of what we are going to talk about. And Rapsel will put in the software component of GMC. So that leaves my job very easy. Nonetheless, I would like to share this platform to express my utmost satisfaction to be part of this team. Whenever we talk about GMC, I personally would like to mention that one will not be able to understand GMC properly if you do not go through Bhutan's history. And when I say Bhutan's history, we almost always link Bhutan's history to a history of a family, that is the Wangchuk dynasty, the kings that have framed and brought Bhutan to where we are today. So if we recollect our history, Bhutan is actually in the modern monarchy. It's a very, very young kingdom. Just over a century back, the first king took the reign and then successive kings did took rightful step at the right time and brought to where we are today. First king unified the country, gave the reign to his second son. The second king brought in modern law issues, and then third king took Bhutan to a modern country system, introduced modern technology, law, schools, roads, connectivity, and took Bhutan to the UN. And then, as we all know, fourth king, at a very young age of 17 years, had to take the reign. And then it was then in 1972 that His Majesty profoundly mentioned that a country's gross national happiness will mean a lot instead of gross domestic product. And since then, the word gross national happiness went out to the world. And as you rightly said, today we are all happily celebrating International Day of Happiness. So then I think at the young age of 50 years, His Majesty the Fourth King thought that continuing the same system may not be good for the country. So as we all know, His Majesty the Fourth King introduced from absolute monarchy to democratic system in the country. And our current king took the reign. And then in Bhutan, His Majesty, the current king, went around the country, left and right, north and south, east and west, walked to every village, every homes, slept in many of the villages, took note of every aspect of village life, and rightfully earned the People's King's title. As we went along, His Majesty thought that being a lovable, popular king, but of a poor country may not be good enough. So as we all know, I was very fortunate to be the Prime Minister of the country during very unfortunate events that has unfolded and brought to all of us by COVID-19. And I was very fortunate to have gotten into the insights of His Majesty King Jigme's internal mind for what he has for us. His leadership gave me and Bhutan the real insights as to how the Ongchuk dynasty wanted to take Bhutan to greater heights, make Bhutan more relevant in 21st century. Probably these are the collective wisdom that our successive monarchs really wanted to take Bhutan in Bhutanese ahead in these very challenging times.
It seems we have lost Dr. Lotay. Let's see whether he will come back. He's presently, I think, joining the webinar from Bangkok. Then I would like to invite Giulia Frittoli. She is, let me just see, partner in charge, as I mentioned, of the GMC project for Bjarke Ingels Group. And your group has made this really impressive design of GMC. So Giulia, could you tell a little bit more how you developed this vision and this wonderful idea? So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I will share my screen just to show a few more pictures as you've seen before on the in the video. And I think just to iterate, I think that the beauty of the project is also the collaborations with the amazing team in Bhutan, all the experts and my esteemed partners and collaborators that we have today in the call, but also all the local architects and the team that we work with. So what I present to you today is really the result on an amazing teamwork. And I think that what makes the project special. And I think that's also what Bhutan is special about. And I think happiness, and in the day of happiness, the gross national happiness is founded on 9 pillars. And when we started to familiarize ourselves with those pillars, I always love that you can sort of group them in the relationship between yourself, with your mind and your spirituality, but also your relationship with the environment and the other people. I think this is the core of what makes Bhutan special, but as well as GMC special. And I only have a few minutes, so I can't tell all the beautiful things I would like to tell about this amazing country, but I will give you a little bit of a sneak peek of the site. and what it is today. It's very different than the northern part of Bhutan. The mountains are slightly lower and the climate is more tropical, but nevertheless, it does represent the beauty of the country. You can see the paddy fields, the forest, its rivers that come from the Himalaya and bring down water and granite and stone, of which we believe we can build a future city, MGNC, in Gelephu. It's really a breathtaking site, and it's really incredible, not only for its geographical feature, but for the life that is there. And when we think about wildlife, it's not just forests, but it's all the animals and the biodiversity we encounter. And we thought that we always look at projects and development from a human perspective, but we thought to start actually from the nature perspective. And you can see in this map, the site is 2,500 square kilometers, but most of it is actually nature protected. You can see you have 2 national parks that bookends the west and the east of the site, with a biological corridor on the north. And while the tigers and the most mammals like traveling east-west, you can see in pink is the actual GPS tracking of the elephants that instead don't believe in borders and passports, and they just love finding their way down to India and to the south by just following the rivers. So that water is not just the source of agriculture and irrigation, but is also the source of life and flow of these animals and wildlife. So we thought that that's where we need to start. Rather than doing an urban regeneration and a development to start drawing plots and grids, we start drawing the boundary of nature that we don't need to cross. So we looked at the rivers, which is really the character of this site. And we thought that rather than building walls to narrow them, we thought to widen them instead, to think about these corridors as really ecological connectors for water, elephants, natures, and plants, but also follow the topography and all the streams that we can find on site. And there are really many, and it's amazing how also throughout the different seasons, they move from being dry, a landscape, to a really a sort of tropical and monsoon type of environment. So by really designing with the topography, we thought of an urban plan that follows also the typical villages that we can find in Bhutan, that they are built on a series of paddy fields, really following gently the topography. We think that we could build higher, a little higher towards the lower area where it's flatter, it's easier to develop, while we maintain a little bit more gradual and sparse development on the northern side. This also allowed to preserve, maintain, and regenerate not only the nature, but as well as agriculture, to think about a city where urban environment and village and agriculture and nature can actually coexist. The waterways are so many, and they break down the development in a series of neighborhoods that are at a walking distance. But it is important to connect them with water infrastructure. So there is a series of infrastructure corridors that run across those various paddy fields and urban environments and neighborhoods. What becomes really amazing is the connection between the urban environment and the nature that really happens at the bridges. The city being born around these thousands of rivers becomes also a city of the thousands of bridges, where you can imagine these bridges to not only be a connector from A to B, but also become a connector for people and for nature. They become the landmark and the cultural symbol of the city. This is just a small portion of the plan, but that's where the first phases will be developed in the next few years. And you can see out of the preservation of the forest, but also how the plan is just drawn by nature itself. We follow the water, we follow the contours, and everything follow exactly where nature wants to be and how the flow of nature works. So you can see from these draft images also that as the river flows down cascade from the mountain down to the plain, so does the urban environment. You can see also the buildings are relatively low. We have decided to build not higher than 6 floors to utilize mostly timber, bamboo, and riverstone construction to try to reduce the amount of CO2 emission and embodied carbon within architecture. So you can see also the building and the heights that gently slope down and become lower towards the paddy field and agriculture and the hills towards the top. The way we've thought about the building is that also by utilizing timber or bamboo, it also becomes ideal to manufacture construction and think about an assembly and prefabricated system that can also create a baseline for then the additional ornaments and decoration that make Bhutanese architecture special as we see today. So it's really about combining modernity but also craft, and thinking about a broad spectrum of typology and elements that can assemble in many different ways, similar to how Bhutanese buildings are assembled today, but thinking about it with a sustainability in mind and also adaptability with the environment and the climate. We developed a very wide range of typology that can be also assembled and disassembled in various ways in the city to create continuation, but at the same time also variety. You can see with some images these sort of villages that are nestled in the mountain on the top, almost cascade down with the topography. Sometimes smaller buildings are hidden in between the forest and the natural hot springs that can be found on the site. The narrow streets meander through the urban environment, so it becomes a very much pedestrian neighborhood, where also the streets are built with green pavers to allow for water to seep through the ground. But there's also wider streets that function as promenades and boulevards for crafts, people, and the social environment to really spill out from the building and bring life through the streets, but also through the courtyards inside the neighborhoods, the different buildings. It becomes a space that is private and public, where this idea of the gross national happiness, of intertwining yourself with others and nature, become very relevant in every single space of the city. Preserving agriculture means also preserving nature and learning how to deal with water. So instead of pushing water away, GMC welcomes water. So you can imagine also part of the public spaces becoming a place where water can filter, be clean, so we can support the natural environment to design a city that is designed for sunny days as well as for rainy days. Thinking about water also results in a series of bridges. Given the time, I will show just a few today. But the idea that the bridges become really a connector, not only between a point A to B, but also between cultures and environment. This is the hospital that we imagine two wings, the sort of traditional medicine, the Western medicine being connected by the bridge. Some of the bridges can become marketplace, where the produce that is produced locally can actually be sold and exchanged within the city, also becoming a cultural center. You can also imagine some of the places to be almost like the urban development crisscross and interconnects like the Buddhist endless knots to present a center that becomes a place for mindfulness and spirituality and conference and connections, where you can imagine also to meet the leaders of Buddhism and think about mindfulness and spirituality in a different ways. The way we've been conceiving the architecture and the urban design of the city is really to be a bridge also between innovation and craftsmanship. So we imagine to utilize the local craft, but support the local craft through robotics and innovation and technology to expand that craft at the scale of a city and at the scale of an airport. As you can see here, this is the Gelephu International Airport, where it's built out of glue laminated timber, but also that integrates craftsmanship and ornaments that are typical of Bhutanese architecture within the outside and the inside of the airport, as well as nature. So that basically intelligence can also be artificial, collective, and natural. So Bhutan really becomes an example of a continuation of different realms between the relationship between humans and nature, but also crafts. When we think about connecting with nature and humans, of course, spirituality comes to mind. So we've also been designing the Vajrayana Buddhism museum that becomes one of the pillars of the GMC, sitting on the highest top of the city, looking down towards the remaining urban environment. It is designed to bring to life the 5 different elements of nature: the earth, the water, the air, the light, and looking all the way up to the space. As a building that is also sitting on a mast that actually is a prayer wheel, to also remember and be connected spiritually between the various religions, but also the various social environment. And when we think about integrating spirituality, mindfulness, and craft, is not only happening at the city scale or the urban scale or the cultural scale, but also the infrastructure scale. So some of these steps that you can see is actually one of the dams that will power GMC, where you can see it's almost thought as a pilgrimage route inspired by the tiger's nest in Bhutan that welcomes you to actually walk from the top all the way to the bottom of the dam. And I think this becomes a symbol of really past, present, and future, how Bhutan is integrating nature with also humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Giulia. This was really impressive, and I'm looking forward to hear many or read many questions from the audience, which they can put on the YouTube channel. Ambassador Tshoki Choden, Ambassador, you are based in Europe, in Brussels, and the focus right now of GMC, we have learned, is a little bit rather on Asia. So what Europe could play, what kind of role Europe could play with the development of a GMC, please, Ambassador Tshoki.
Thank you. Thank you. Warm greetings to all the participants, and my deepest respects to the Honorable Governor of the GMC, Dasho Dr Lotay Tshering. I would like to start by sharing a question that I commonly get asked here in Europe in connection to the GMC. Why is Bhutan on a growth path that has not really generated the desired development outcomes for many other countries? And with Bhutan's strong focus now on economic transformation, have we discarded GNH? I'm sure when the Honorable Governor continues the conversation, he would be able to provide a lot of insight into the question. And I would just like to add that at its core, the question speaks to a challenge that extends far beyond Bhutan and resonates across the world: how to balance economic progress with social and environmental well-being. And if we look at Bhutan's development journey, while the GNH-led growth has served us well, we have also experienced some imbalances. Economic prosperity has not really kept pace with the progress in the areas of culture, environment, and governance. And as a result, we have yet to generate sufficient economic opportunities and financial security, particularly for our youth. In recent times, this has led to a growing trend of young Bhutanese moving abroad in pursuit of better economic opportunities, highlighting the urgent need to create sustainable and attractive prospects within the country. Even here in Europe, the existing economic model is being examined as growing economic inequalities, cultural anxieties, and broader geopolitical shifts have raised pressing concerns about Europe's economic competitiveness, and whether it must come at the cost of the values such as social solidarity and environmental sustainability, which have long underpinned European prosperity and global influence. So in that sense, the questions surrounding GMC and Bhutan in general are not very different from the ones that Europe is grappling with. At its core, the conversation is about a dilemma that all countries must confront. Do we continue on the same path expecting different results, or do we forge new pathways that enable us to achieve the desired level of economic prosperity within planetary boundaries? And in my view, this is where the GMC comes in. As the other speakers will allude to, the GMC seeks to balance GNH by placing a renewed emphasis on economic transformation, and it essentially offers an alternate growth model, one that neither rejects GNH nor does it compete with sustainability, but instead reinforces them. And in doing so, aims to create opportunities for everyone, including Europe, to collaborate with Bhutan to build a sustainable economic future. Coming to the role that Europe can play to develop the GMC, I believe the existing partnership between Bhutan and the European Union serves as a good reference point. The European Union has been supporting Bhutan's socio-economic development since 1982. And right from the start, our partnership has been grounded in a shared commitment to responsive and inclusive progress. And while many traditional development partners have phased out their support to Bhutan over the years, the European Union continues to remain a steadfast partner of Bhutan, focusing its support in the areas of climate action, good governance, and digitalization, areas that are all critical to sustainable development. This enduring partnership speaks to something deeper. Our shared values, democracy, rule of law, and sustainable development have always been at the heart of our engagement. And it is these same values that underpin the GMC. Common international goals, in particular, it aligns with the Sustainable Development Goal 11 on building sustainable cities and communities, Goal 13 on climate action, and also the Paris Climate Agreement. So given these strong synergies, the GMC naturally presents new opportunities for Bhutan and the European Union to strengthen our partnership, not just in developing the city, but also in setting an example of how meaningful partnerships can drive sustainable development. And to initiate this collaboration and to explore its full potential, we are currently working to organize an investors forum in Denmark in May, followed by Brussels and 2 other European cities in October this year, all of which will be led by the Honorable Prime Minister of Bhutan. Last but not the least, thank you to the German Bhutan Himalaya Society for organizing this timely forum, which provides the perfect lead up to the planned GMC events in the year. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Tshoki Choden. And indeed, what you said, I think it's really important and true. I remember the Bhutanese development philosophy is that of a middle path. It's not that you have to go to extremes. It's a balanced development. It's not just spirituality and well-being, but also economic development. And to keep this in balance, I think that's the lesson not only Europe can learn, but maybe the whole world. So with this, and of course, we are looking forward for this investment fora, and whatever we can do to make it a success, we will do. With this, I would like to turn to Rapsel Dorji, and then Dr. Lotay, probably at the end, you can still give your insights and so on. So Mr. Rapsel Dorji, he is the head of communication at GMC. And in this respect, as a communicator, we expect that you can communicate a lot of information about GMC. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Reinhard. Thank you to everyone joining in as well. Thank you to the German Bhutan Himalaya Society for organizing this webinar. It's a real pleasure to be able to share with you the work that we're doing here in Bhutan and at the GMC. Of course, we've heard from our Honorable Governor, Dasho Dr Lotay, on the historical context in nation building. And of course, he was also talking about the unique bond that we share between the king and the country that allows a vision like the GMC to function. We also heard from Giulia, our star architect, who has articulated the architectural and design elements of the GMC. And of course, Her Excellency Ambassador Tshoki has outlined the continued opportunities for partnerships between GMC and Europe. Now, I would like to focus a bit more on some of the finer details of the GMC. And in the spirit of mindfulness and compassion, I will spare you having to look at my face for the next 10 minutes. So I will pull up a presentation on the screen. As we know, of course, the GMC is a transformative and a royal vision of His Majesty the King to build a special administrative region in the south central part of Bhutan. It's an initiative to build a new economic city that will leverage the growth of the larger South Asian region, but one that is deeply rooted in Bhutan's values and identity. And so this vision is about harnessing Bhutan's strengths, our green energy, our sustainable resources, but our enlightened leadership as well. And to build a city that is spiritually mindful, economically prosperous, and environmentally sustainable. And we do this through a very unique strategy, something called the Diamond Strategy, as envisioned by His Majesty the King. And so this vision, as you can see, follows a one country, two systems model through the establishment of a special administrative region. And so this SAR allows GMC to have this autonomous executive, legislative, and judicial systems. And in this model, for the first 20 years, GMC and Bhutan will diverge in a structure, it'll diverge in its policies and perhaps even in its pace of growth. But over the next 20 years, the GMC will gradually reintegrate with the rest of Bhutan back into a unified national system. So what this does is that it allows the GMC to take more risks, to innovate, to be a test bed of ideas and innovations that can then be scaled into larger Bhutan. So even as we diverge and then converge, what is critical is that there remain a strong link between GMC and Bhutan with a very strong feedback loop that ensures that Bhutan modernizes in a structured manner, but while safeguarding our values and our tradition. So for me, this is a master stroke. This is a very important strategy that we follow at the GMC. And as a special administrative region, the GMC has the ability to adopt and adapt international best practices, ensuring a business-friendly ecosystem. And that's exactly what we're doing. For example, we've already adopted Singapore's common law. We've already adopted the Abu Dhabi Global Markets Regulation for financial matters. And that allows, again, for a stable, investor-friendly, business-focused legal framework. So the question is, why GMC? And we believe at the GMC that it's built on 10 very strong pillars. The first one, of course, is governance under His Majesty's direct guidance and leadership, with world-class leadership as well. 2 is on the Bhutanese values that we have blended with sustainable growth to create a city that is clean and green and safe and therefore happy. 3 is the favorable regulatory environment that encourages investments and innovation, as I was talking about. 4 is around the adoption of global best practices in law and business. 5 is the access to abundant renewable energy and sustainable resources. 6, blueprint for world-class infrastructure. 7, the policy autonomy that we have that offers attractive incentives to investors. 8 is the enhanced regional connectivity, including a new international airport that we're building. Then 9, of course, this very special and unique ties that we have with India right across the border for economic and trade cooperation. And then finally, of course, a spiritual center for Buddhism. We believe that we'll be able to attract a lot of global seekers of wisdom. So the GMC is, again, strategically located in the south central part of Bhutan. It covers over 2,600 square kilometers. We have these priority infrastructures like the international airport, hydropower plants. These will be catalytic to the success of the GMC, and we'll be working on this during the first phase of development. It also includes, of course, road connectivity and rail connectivity. 70% of the land will remain green, making it one of the most sustainable developments globally. And the GMC, in many ways, I think, represents Bhutan's ambition for a future that is mindful and progressive and globally connected as well. Now, we've identified 7 core economic drivers. You can see this information on our website. But specifically, of course, we look to make the GMC a global Buddhist and spiritual center. We look to make the GMC a health and wellness hub with a focus on integrative medicine. The GMC will be an education and knowledge hub for thought leadership and for R&D. The GMC will also focus a lot on agri-tech and forestry, what Bhutan is known for, especially in terms of leveraging sustainable, carbon neutral, and smart agriculture. There's a lot of focus on green energy and tech industries, driven by the exponential demand for AI and compute power. We think that we can be a finance hub for wealth management, for digital banking, and of course, aviation and logistics, so that we can become a regional air connectivity hub with a whole airport economy built around it. And so, as you can see, we are currently in the first phase of development, focusing on creating these foundational and catalytic infrastructure, as well as the regulatory frameworks. I like to say that we're building right now the hardware and the software of the GMC, and we invite all friends and partners in this journey with us. And finally, I like this slide a lot because I think for those of us here in Bhutan, the GMC is a nation-building exercise. It's an emanation of the trust, the fidelity, the loyalty that we have for our king. And I think we have the entire country behind us for this vision. And in my opinion, that is why the GMC will succeed. So thank you again for your time.
And what I also found interesting, this strong feedback loop, what you mentioned to really while developing this concept and the 10 pillars you also mentioned. So I would like to go back to Dr. Lotay. Would you like to complement other points and emphasize what you think is still important to be mentioned with regard to GMC?
Well, as we all heard after listening to Ms. Giulia and Mr. Rapsel, there's hardly anything for one to say. And then today it was added on by Ambassador Tshoki. So thank you all. I was to pick up from where I left. Maybe a part of it was touched by Rapsel. Many might know GMC as any other city that many countries or many leaders in the world are undertaking. But for me, what I was trying to hint at is the bond and trust that the Ongchuk dynasty actually has gained until now, and then the Bhutanese people, by and large, has invested in the family. So when I was mentioning about the COVID, I was about to mention that that the deeper understanding that I personally had in His Majesty's leadership, of that, what I found or what little that I know about leadership is for a person to be successful leadership or leader, I personally feel that certain factors must be present. One, the person must have clear foresight, a very clear vision. This person must have, in addition to having a clear vision, must have the intellectual capacity to implement those vision. And then the third factor is very, very important, is for that person to have absolute authority to implement those visions in the manner he or she wanted to do it. And fourth factor, which is very, very unique and equally important, is this leader must be unconditionally accepted by his or her subjects. So with these four factors, if we have these four factors in a person, he or she will definitely be a good leader. And I personally see only His Majesty the King that has all these four conditions in him. And that I call as a long-term investment that Bhutan and Bhutanese had in this family. That is what I was about to mention in leadership of His Majesty the King. And when I was trying to mention about popularity versus a great king, His Majesty very clearly, repeatedly mentions that he will not be happy just being a king of a poor country. He has to do what he had to do to be a great king and take Bhutan to the next level, make Bhutan relevant in 21st century. So these are the inner callings that His Majesty the King had that gave birth to this GNH. The unique feature that GNH has compared to any other cities or similar projects in the world is that GMC is not up against any time frame. GMC need not worry about change of leadership. GMC need not worry, or His Majesty the King, while undertaking GMC, need not worry about political time frame, need not worry about popularity. His Majesty can focus, take advantage of the unconditional love and respect that he has, focus on the long-term outcome of this project that is unprecedented. That is what I wanted to say. So while having everything said, I would like to, I'll be more than happy to take queries after this.
Thank you, Dr. Lotay. We will, as I mentioned, offer our audience to send questions to on YouTube channel, and then maybe we'll forward it to you later so people can think and reflect and formulate questions, and then we will may open the discussion again later after the webinar. So maybe if you allow, I would like to come back to Giulia. So I think you have really impressively shown how this concept was designed and how it's really combining mindfulness, well-being, and also environmental progress. But could you also tell, have there been challenges in developing this, and what have been the biggest challenges in designing GMC? Giulia.
Thank you for the good and difficult question at the same time. I think the challenges of the project are actually its opportunity. If we would do things as we traditionally do, it would be easier, right? But I think we have the opportunity here to try to do a different type of planning. And I think when you focus first on nature, that's where the opportunity can also bring in challenges at the same time. For instance, we were talking about it just a few days ago, how do we ensure that if that we reroute some of the elephant corridors to make sure that they will not walk over the place where the airport is about to be constructed. So there are all these elements that I think are great opportunity, but and you need to basically look at them with a different mindset, with a mindset that nature comes first, and there are things that you can control and things that you cannot control. And I think that is also what it's beautiful, right? That we constantly remind us what nature wants to do, what nature wants to be. Instead of drawing the lines of the development, the first line we are drawing is where we do not develop. How do we ensure that also we reduce the human and wildlife conflict without harming the wildlife? But also thinking that if we make an environment that is even too good for the wildlife, perhaps in the future there will be more conflict. So I think these are some of the challenges that we are working through with specialists and expert teams, both local and international, to align on the best practice, but also to think about innovative solutions of how to address this. And I think innovation is really at the core of this. There is, of course, challenges of how do we build in timber in a climate that is subtropical? Where is the timber sourced? I think there is, of course, like developments in Bhutan that allows to locally source, but what is the radius we are looking into? So I think that it's easier to design the city, but when we think about its implementation, I think that's what really the focus is for both the design team and the local team, is implementing the first phase of the city. That's where we really need to take this opportunity and make them reality. And this obviously comes with challenges. But I do think that we have a great team and we have great opportunity and great leaders, as Dasho Dr Lotay just mentioned, to unlock these challenges. I think one of the things that I also would like to mention, that many of the other speakers that's also mentioned, is that the opportunity and the strength of the project lies in the people. And it's definitely the people of Bhutan. They are among the most beautiful people I've ever met. Really a welcoming community that has opened their arms to GMC and to everybody involved. But also when we think about it, it's in future, we can design a city, but life will be brought with the people that are there, people that will move there. And we need to start having people interested in moving there to make the city viable, to create a business plan, to actually create prosperity, to build the city. We also need to have the Bhutanese that have left come back to GMC, come back to their hometowns, to help building this city together, to help creating that life, and eventually finding that balance, right? The opportunity of creating a society that will preserve Bhutanese tradition, but also will be open to the world. We need to bring the world in to avoid Bhutanese to leave Bhutan and stay in their country and develop with it. So what will be the right balance of mix of culture, mix of tradition, of global and local innovation and tradition? And I think this we'll only learn by doing. And I think, again, these are the opportunities that also are the challenges we are working with. But we have a great path ahead, and I'm sure the city and everything will succeed. So I'm very honored to be here today and to be part of this wonderful team to help bridging the future and make sure that Bhutan also give an example of how we can better develop socially, economically, and environmentally as an example and a prototype to the world.
Thank you, Giulia. And I remember in the initial presentation, you also mentioned the prefabricated elements you're using. And I think that we are discussing about this in Germany, where housing construction is very expensive and we also have shortage of manpower. And so this is also a discussion to use much more modular buildings, which can make construction cheaper with less manpower required. So thank you very much. And now I would like to turn again to Rapsel Dorji. So and the question would be, well, we have partly already heard about this, but what opportunities would be there for people outside Bhutan to connect or to support GMC? Could you elaborate a little bit on this?
Yes, thanks, Reinhard. I think the GMC is Bhutan's invitation to the world, and there are multiple ways to engage. So, you can look at investing in some of the priority infrastructures and the priority sectors that we spoke about, whether it's renewables, whether it's wellness, education, tech. You can partner with us on research and innovation with our institutions. You can join as a talent, you can join as a mentor, bringing your expertise in sustainable development, in urbanism, in spirituality, in entrepreneurship. Or quite simply, you can actually just visit and experience Bhutan and GMC and then share the story and the mindful model that we are currently developing. So I think GMC is not just for Bhutan, it's a global platform for purpose-driven people and organizations. Thank you.
So thank you. And are there already concrete plans for initial residents or investments? Could you also say a little bit about this?
Yes, sure. Of course, we already have residents in Gelephu, and the GMC is moving from vision to concrete reality. Our honorable governor is working very hard on the ground, engaging with local stakeholders. But one of the cornerstones of the GMC is the international airport, right? This will serve as this vital gateway connecting Bhutan directly to the region and to the world. And so it's not just about transport, of course, it's about opening doors. It's about opening doors for trade, for tourism, for global engagement. And this airport will put GMC on the map, quite literally and economically. So investments is also taking off. We are in discussions with investors in green energy, in education, in tech, many other areas. And we're exploring these opportunities for investments into the city. So the foundations are being built. I think the partnerships are being formed, and very soon we'll be sharing these concrete announcements as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rapsal Dorji. And Dr. Lotay, I remember that while being Prime Minister, you have been visiting Germany, I think, as first official visit of a Bhutanese Prime Minister to Germany. And you have also visited this center, vocational training center near Frankfurt. And so do you think that also German craftsmen can be useful to develop GMC?
Thank you, Mr. Reinhardt. You just reminded me of that memorable trip to Germany. In fact, I take a lot of pride in being a team member to have established a bilateral relation between Germany and plus Israel and other countries during my reign, during my tenure. So thank you very much. Well, definitely, yes. To answer your question, GMC, as Mr. Rapsal was mentioning, is a place where innovative minds from the world can meet and bring about what one would think impossible to happen, make it possible. For the technical and technology that German had always pursued, we look up to your standards. And to bring about technical institutions that you all have to GMC, and partnering would be definitely one of the undertakings that GMC would definitely be looking forward to.
Thank you. And maybe this investment fora, Ambassador Tshoki Choden mentioned what the present Prime Minister wants to have in Europe will also help to foster this. So I think we are coming to an end, and thank you to all for keeping the time. It was really wonderful. I would like to thank you all, and I think GMC is a real unique and wonderful project, combining, as the title said, innovation with spirituality. And we have learned a lot about these values and principles which have been incorporated in the planning. And so I hope, and we will see, that this will be a model for future urban planning, not just in Bhutan, but worldwide, so let's see. But what we also learned, challenges lie ahead. So it will take quite some time. And I think that I like a remark of Dr. Lotay that you are not under extreme time pressure. It's just also learning by doing. And I think it's a very good development. So with this, So for all the audience, there is a website on GMC, which you can look and where you can get more information. And of course, in the international newspaper, there are so many articles about this. So I would like to thank all the speakers, Dr. Lotay, Giulia, Ambassador Tshoki Choden, and Rapsal Dorji for these valuable insights. And I hope that this webinar has inspired many people to learn more about GMC and about Bhutan. And just as a reminder, today is the day of happiness. And also for Dr. Lotay and Rapsal and Ambassador Tshoki Choden, she is aware that there is a group of European Bhutan friendship associations, and they are planning to visit in November with more than 10 friendship societies and more than 40 people. So I will be part of it, and I'm looking forward to meet you and to really see, of course, not many structures will be there, but still to learn more about the plans. So, and in addition, from our German Bhutan Himalaya Society, every year we have a so-called annual Bhutan Day. And the next one will be the 17th of May. And every year we have a different topic. And this year we will have a topic, agricultural development, the path to sustainability. Last year we had climate change, and this year we have agriculture, and we learned that agriculture also will play a role in GMC. So we are looking forward also. We will have the Bhutanese Minister for Agriculture as a speaker online, and we are looking forward to interesting presentations. So with this, again, to all the participants, you can follow this webinar on YouTube. You can send your questions there, and then we will try to answer or to forward the questions to the speaker as much as possible. So thank you very much, Tassi Delek, and have a nice evening and a nice day, and hope to see you all again. Thank you. Kajin Chila.